Peace and welcome to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we got a great show for you. First, let's talk about the big breaking news where Elon Musk, who is trying to become the full owner of Twitter, said that if he is able to acquire the company, he will allow Donald Trump back on the platform. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, we're going to talk about how black women are choosing to have birth outside of the hospital. We'll discuss the pros and cons of that big decision. And are you balancing your 9-to-5 with the side hustle? Yeah, it looks like we probably all are, have been in that place. We'll discuss how that impacts your mind and your body, as well as your work performance. And then later we check in with Dr. Harry Williams of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to talk about the HBCU Transformation Project. All of that and a whole lot more. So stay with us, folks. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Are you ready? I'm ready. So let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the show. Let's talk about the big breaking news right now, where Elon Musk, who is the SpaceX and Tesla CEO, said that he would allow former President Donald Trump to jump back on the social media that he is working to buy and to fully acquire, the $44 billion social media platform Twitter, where the former president, was permanently banned from the social media site as a result of what happened on January the 6th. Now, Mr. Musk has went as far as to say that he thought that the decision to ban Trump on Twitter, on this platform, was quote unquote morally a bad decision. He said that. And he spoke to the co-founder of Twitter, Mr. Jack Dorsey, and the CEO, and they both agreed that Twitter should not support permanent bans on accounts unless it involves bots or spam or scams. Yeah. Now again, former President Donald Trump was banned from Twitter. It was that decision. And the Twitter cited the risk of further incitement of violence due to what happened on January the 6th. I want to bring in our culture crew on Tuesdays. We are joined by Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast that can be heard on all podcast streaming platforms. And we are also joined by Iman Heath, who is an activist entrepreneur as well. Iman, Lise, always good to talk to you on Tuesdays. How are you ladies this afternoon?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Iman, good to see you again.
Right. I'm better. See my
eyes. So this was the big breaking story that's happened that everybody is talking about around the country. And I think, Lisa, I'm going to start with you. I think people had an inkling that this would be Elon Musk's stand, like this would be his decision. But we were all kind of waiting, trying to say, okay, is he really going to allow him on or not? But what do you think that Elon Musk would say? I know he says that it was a morally bad decision. What do you really think is behind this? Is it the fact that President Trump said that he would stay initially just a few weeks ago? He said, look, I'm going to stay. I don't need Twitter. Even if Elon Musk allows me back on, I'm going to stay on my own social media, Truth Social.
Yeah, I think he will. I think for a while at least, Donald Trump is going to stay on Truth Social because it only makes sense. Like, you can't have your biggest following on Twitter. He's not making any money off of that. When it comes to a moral stance, now, here's the thing. I know a lot of people are upset about this. And Elon Musk, if he is, I don't know, is the deal final? Because technically he still had to get some extra financing. So I don't know if the deal is final. But if it is final and he is the owner of, of Twitter, it's a private company. He has the right to do that. If he wants to allow Donald Trump back on there, he did say that if there are certain tweets and posts that shouldn't be seen, they should be muted or deleted. but not necessarily ban the person altogether. He was concerned that you're alienating a bunch of people. Elon Musk is about money. Have you seen what he has done with cryptocurrency? Anything that he says is like, oh, go buy this tree coin, and then people go out and buy it, and then he pulls all his money out. Like, he's about the money. And if you're alienating the middle half of the country, you can't sell ads to them. So I think a lot of this has to do with he's a businessman.
So it's all about the dollars and cents.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not what and see, and that's the thing about it, Iman. Like, stop trying to cloak it into something bigger and much more divine, right? Like, just say, hey, look, yeah, we need him back on. He makes good money for us. I mean, I don't know. I know he probably would never say that. I know business people don't say that. They always like, oh no, it's a morally. I mean, because we're not looking to Elon Musk for moral leadership and guidance and direction.
Not at all. But I just want him to think of the possible backlash that can come behind it. If he's showing support of Trump, you have our anti-trumpets and trumpets that will have the issue with that. It could cause a lot of controversy. He could lose money if people withdraw from being active on Twitter. But at the same time, Team Trump and trumpets will hop back on Twitter. So it's like a balance you have to do. But I definitely agree with Lisa. It's all about the bag. It's all about the money. Donald Trump is the publicity attention person you need when it comes to bringing his followers on. So I think it's a good business move, but it's going to be some backlash to it.
All right, so here's the situation now. The way this whole process has been going is that Elon Musk put his bid in. He brought, he was able to raise the money. Twitter's board approved the $44 billion deal. Mm-hmm. Now it goes to a shareholder vote, right? And so that vote hasn't been determined as of yet, but most likely, Iman and Lise, it's going to be approved. Because he got the money for it, right? He's got the commitments. He's been getting like letters of commitments, these pledges, sort of, essentially from all of these banks and other places and other investors. So he's done that. But the thing I think is very interesting is, I think it's more, and I tend to think that yes, this is a business move, because even though Truth Social has not been doing very well, keeping one of the biggest loudmouths on social media off of your platform onto another platform, you want to intercept that, right? Like, so I think he knows that Donald Trump says, "Oh, I'm going to stick to my platform," and so Elon Musk is like, "Well, why stick it to your platform, buddy? We can all talk and chat and tweet together. Come on, buddy."
And I'm interested. I don't know if we got Twitter's numbers yet. Their earnings, because I think he's looking at this from a business perspective as well. Now, as Truth Social is not where it's at. Like, that's just what it is.
That's the truth about Truth Social.
That's the truth about it. But when you look at how fast Twitter accepted his bid, have you ever seen a company that's doing amazing? Go try to say, Coca-Cola, I'm going to give you $20 for the whole company if you sell it to me. And they go, okay, don't you go, wait a minute. Like, it wasn't nobody else. Like, I think he's thinking about that now. So in order for you to make money off of social media, you need to have ads. You have to have people. We are the product. When something is free, you're the product. And so he needs more people on the platform. And Donald Trump does bring people on the platform. And for all the people out there saying this is against the First Amendment rights, it's a private company. That the First Amendment protects you against the government. So the government can't censure you, but this is a private company. So they do have the right to block people or censor people if they choose to do so. Now, I don't know if we will see a reversal that Trump will say, I'll come back to Twitter, because
we will.
I don't know. He says he won't, but this will be interesting. And I think that's what Elon Musk is doing. I think he's just trying to drum up attention for Twitter. He bought, like I said, I don't know what the numbers look like yet, but he brought something that they didn't give any pushback. Where did they do that at? Like, have you ever seen a big company where they just say, "Oh, you want to pay what for real? No, okay, yeah, sure."
You talking about the pushback from who? The company?
Twitter, like Twitter just went, okay. Like
Well,
he
they
put up
had
a
initial
number.
pushback. Remember now, when he said he wanted to buy the company, they tried to create a situation where it'd be very hard for him to do so. Like they put a cap, I think, on the number of the amount of stocks that he
They
could
didn't
buy.
want him to have control over it.
They
It
didn't want
wasn't
him to have control of it.
It wasn't the money though. That's the part where I was like, really?
Okay.
Like there was no one else trying to bid for Twitter. So usually when you have companies
Nobody,
like this,
please,
people
nobody pulling out $44 billion out the back
Not at
pocket.
all.
he didn't even
Not
have
at
44
all.
billion.
Not
Didn't he have
at all.
like 3 billion in liquid assets? The rest of
He
it
had
is
3
in
billion.
stocks.
He got
I mean, the band is going to space.
he put
because,
8 to 9 billion, if I'm not mistaken. He took out 8 to 9 billion from his stocks with Tesla, and he put in and pretty much put it up on Twitter as
Which
well.
is risky.
So he's putting his own money into the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he's gone to investors, some of your major top banks, and he was like, "Oh, okay, cool, we'll do it." So it's all about that, but it's still and it may not be a sweetheart deal. I mean, we've been having this conversation about whether Elon Musk is really going to make Twitter profitable, because that's the big thing, like about social media. Yeah, it could be all of the other stuff, but it has to be profitable in order for it to win. And what Jack Dorsey and his team has been able to do is make it profitable. Now, once they got into the space of trying to moderate the content and trying to deal with bad actors like Donald Trump and other folks who use the platform to create violence or to incite violence, then it's kind of like uncharted territory. You never had that. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind.
He's going to have to balance between freedom of speech and not harping on that portion so much as to have some type of boundaries or control, because to have a free Twitter, or be able to tweet whatever, however, and say whatever, however, it still needs to have some type of boundaries, because again, that can incite a community of violence, that can incite more rage and more divide that we already have. Like, to think of the things I know on Facebook, you can't even type the word gay. You will go to Facebook jail typing the word. So it's certain boundaries I think that should be had. No one should be banned, but he has to be careful not to take the freedom of speech thing and blow it up too far, because people, y'all know how people go. It'll go completely left. Racial slurs, ignorance towards the LGBT community. It'll open a can of worms of a lot of things that we really don't need at this time. We're divided enough.
Well, see, that's the thing. Again, if you're using your social media platform as a space to as a moral compass, like that is totally to me, that's not even what people brings people to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all of that. Nobody's looking for these spaces to be a moral compass. They just want to
at
talk.
all. It's drama. Everybody wants
and post
drama.
pictures. I mean, you
when
know what I mean? Like,
when Boosie said what he said on Instagram, oh, he blew up.
Yeah.
So it's people go to the drama, and that's another reason why Elon Musk is he wants to bring on Donald Trump, because people run to the drama. It entertains us. It's entertainment.
Yeah, I think he wants popularity in the space of social media. It is very hard. Every day something else is popping up, whether you have TikTok, something else, and this one and that one. So you have to constantly keep people's attention. If I'm being honest, Twitter's the one place where I just I can't, the retweeting of the tweet, it's just like algebra to me. Like, I hate Twitter. But I mean, it's where you need to be. Like, if you really want to reach out to a company or something, this is where all the cool kids hang out. They hang out on Twitter. So you want to have the most popular.
It depends. I don't know, Lise, because I understand why you would say that, but I don't know, because I know there are a number of, Generation Xers, millennials that are like, Twitter's for old people. Twitter's for politicians entertainers, and corporate America. It's not
Are we the
for,
old people?
It's not for.
We all.
It's not
Well,
for
I'm
the,
old. You're
quote
not
unquote,
old,
the
but
regular
I'm
man
old.
or woman.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think if you want to be seen by a company, like if you want them to get, you want to get their attention, you need to be on Twitter, not on Instagram, not on
Right.
Facebook. You want to be on Twitter. So that's what I mean by the cool kids. Even though I don't really believe in this hierarchy of society
Yeah.
that we've created, but that's what I'm talking about. It should be interesting, like I said, to see how this plays out in the long run as far as freedom of speech, because again, this is a private company. This is not a government run platform. If that was the case, then we could start having those conversations. That's like if you go to a baby shower and they say, don't say baby, you can't say, you're infringing upon my rights. Like you can't do that because this is a private, little party. I do think he's on to something though, as far as what is being banned, because sometimes people get banned on these social media platforms because the platform itself doesn't necessarily like it, or you don't like it. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to speak, because they're not really organizing in these spaces like they are, on this black web. Like that's where these people, 4chan and all those places, that's where they're starting to organize. And I don't want to push these people off where you can't see them. If you shut your door and you closed off to the public, we can't see what you're doing. So that's my concern as well, because at least these platforms are somewhat monitored. You can somewhat track it. So if somebody puts something on there, at least you know who said it. Now we do need to get rid of the bots, but
all right. I'm gonna get to that point, Lise.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you have that point. But I have a big butt. Not like, of course not like, but I have a big butt.
Okay. Do you? You got a big
Yes,
butt?
I
You
do.
cannot
Yeah,
lie.
what's going on?
You got
What's
a big
going
butt.
on?
You cannot
Yes,
lie.
because look, look. I mean, you got this stuff. Like I don't know what's on it. I don't know what's on your timeline, or like you say, you detest Twitter. When I'm on Twitter, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming across all types of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
All types of people, different philosophies, and I don't want to see that. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't want to see racist hate speech, and I don't want to see that. Like, that's not good. Look, there was a New York Times piece, and I think we're going to talk about this on the show,
okay,
at some later point. But they just, New York Times, they just put out this article saying the impact of social media on adolescents and how they view the world. And I'm like, and how basically social media has negatively affected young people starting from the age of 10 all the way up to 18. I think the same thing can be said for adults as well, for us, that once we start to consume, and as much as we like to truly believe that we are all quote unquote strong and that we can all make, rational decisions and we can all have clear headed and judge, and, we're not judgy and all of that. Like, there is something that once somebody says something, or once you read something that is disparaging, racist, or very offensive, it does mess with you. Like, we got to be real about it. Like, it gets to your psyche about this human being, who this human being would, like the person, like the community that this human being is coming from, the world that we're all living in. It messes with you. Like, when I hear racist speech, it's like, damn, this person really think like this.
Yeah, but I think on Twitter he says with the bullying, he's going to get rid of bullying. You can't do that.
Then how you wait a minute?
Yeah, how can you control?
How are you doing that and then you allow Donald Trump platform?
I see, because this is what he said. He was going to try to pipe down on the bullying on the site by muting and deleting those posts. So even though Donald Trump may be on there, we might not see anything he posts anyway, because maybe it'll all get deleted. We don't know. But they're saying that that's what they're going to be doing. So it's not that they're going to ban people, because you can't completely ban a person. He was saying that taking away those tweets. Now that to me seems impossible, but that's what he's saying.
Yeah, because the question is who controls what gets deleted or what gets muted, or what are the guidelines to having your tweet deleted or muted? Like, it's too gray. This is way too gray.
It's too gray, and it's too risky. Like, the country is not at a good place right now. Like, okay, for example, today is Tuesday. Right now in Nebraska and Wisconsin, they're having their primaries. Both primaries, Donald Trump endorsed candidates for those respective offices in those two states, right? If Donald Trump's candidates win, then it adds to the level of influence that he has on the GOP. We know that. He's allowed back on social media. It opens the door for even more stuff. And that's the part about it. I want to share this is what Elon Musk had to say about this whole idea of democracy. And this is why this is like I don't know whether this is just BS or this is something. But Keenan, let's post this quote, what he said about democracy and free speech. He said this, folks, and I think this is really interesting. He said free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. Keenan, we could post that. He said free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. I don't agree.
I completely, honestly, I
don't agree
with that freedom of speech, because when you start censoring people, you too can be I think that's the part that people are not realizing. If you start to censor people, right, you too get wrapped up in the censorship. I know a couple of people that saying I'm blocked on Facebook and I'm blocked on Instagram, and because I just said this, like, you know, Iman just said, if you type in a word, they will automatically block you. So you too get banned. So then it becomes who does get a chance to speak. And so we do need to hear, because like you said, you don't want to see it on your timeline. The benefit is you can kind of unfollow people so that those things don't come up on your timeline. But also, it doesn't mean that the people aren't saying this. I would rather know this is who you are than to be in a job interview or sitting in there with you and not know.
But see, is that like with Donald Trump, the way we already know who Donald Trump is. After 4 years of having him in office, dude, I know you well. I know you well. Matter of fact, I know you so much that I know you're gonna be like, you told us a couple of weeks ago you're not coming back on. You lying. You coming right back on this piece. You know you are. Stop playing. You're not getting the same type of response. You're not getting the same level of follows and followers that you're getting on your own social media platform. Stop lying. You lying. So we know people, you know what I mean? But again, it's like I'm not trying to encourage people to be in their own an echo chamber. I'm not encouraging that, but there has to be a line drawn somewhere. This dude is getting rewarded. Here he is, a former president is getting rewarded to be on one of the biggest platforms of any technology, right? After he tried to overturn the government. Now, look, I'm not all of USA government type of guy, but that seems like that's a very, very serious offense for a former president. And then you get kicked off, come back on.
But Twitter is not the government. This is not twitter.gov. This is twitter.com, which means that this is owned by private institutions, which means that they have the right to say, hey, he can come on here. He can speak on here, because it is not run by the government. And I think a lot of people are not seeing that. Like with the freedom of speech, it is a private corporation. Like when people get mad at TikTok, I was like, it's a Chinese-based there's but so much you can do. When you go on these companies, you sign up for their policies and procedures. None of us read, because none of us read them, that they have the right to, one, your information is theirs. Okay, because they're going to sell it because it's free. So they got to sell something. Twitter is not as big on ads. So you know that they have to be giving information somewhere. You know what I mean? So all of this matters when you're talking about who gets to speak and who doesn't, because these are private corporations. You don't want somebody coming down and saying, hey, on the Black Star Network, you can't say this, because this is owned by a private corporation. That's kind of, it's a double-edged sword.
Look, let me just break it down to you. Facebook, 3 billion monthly active users. Instagram, 1 billion active users. YouTube, 2.3 billion active users. Twitter, which is one of the is number 14 on the list, underneath of Pinterest, Tumblr, and Reddit. But Twitter comes in with 225 million users.
And
if you allow Donald Trump, he's probably going to add a few million. I get it on a business side, but there has not been any consequence or any consequences against this guy. And I'm all cool with that. I'm cool with no consequences against Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring consequences on this side to us, though.
Right.
Don't go hard on people, you know. Don't go hard on anybody else if you don't go hard on Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
so if you allow Donald Trump on, you got to allow Minister Farrakhan on. You got to allow other people who you deem to be controversial,
mm-hmm.
who you deem to be crossing a line. You got to allow them back on.
I think
that's the way it is. If this is the digital town square where everything is of great importance is being debated, you got to allow everybody back on.
I don't know if they're all banned on Facebook or if they're banned on Twitter, but I think his goal is to get everybody back. Like on Facebook, I know Alex Jones of InfoWars is banned. I'm pretty sure if he's not on Twitter, he probably will be allowed back on Twitter with all of the things that he's put out there, the fake information that just he goes with. So I'm pretty sure that's what will happen. But again, we as Americans, we as the consumer have to have some level of discretion of what we know is true. We have to be able to discern between this is true, this is false, this is bad. And we can't allow the private corporations and companies to be the one that tell us who can speak and who cannot.
No, we're not. We know we're not. But I think to that point, these private companies and corporations are getting getting our data.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, they're getting our dollars, right? We're paying for it in some way, some other way outside of money.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, if these companies are supposed to work in the best interest, like, let's keep it real, we might have to have a different conversation where these social media platforms are set aside or they're in a different category than your normal corporation, because they're dealing with telecommunications, they're dealing with bringing people in, like their whole business model has to be seen as different.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than what you would normally see from like a company like General Motors or you know what I mean, like a Coca-Cola.
They have an ethical, I think a bigger ethical or moral standard that should be put on them because of the amount of contact we have with these social media sites.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will see, but he dropped the bomb. The man dropped the bomb today by saying this. But again, I'm of the consent. Look, if you want to allow certain people on, if you want to allow to have certain speech on, then don't get mad at any person, whether it's a black person, white person. If they disagree with your philosophy, Mr. Musk, you can't just be like trying to find a way to silence them, to make them invisible. If that's the case, then you know what goes, what they say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right, right. But here's the thing: if y'all really want Elon Musk to not be able to do this, get off of Twitter. If he loses enough subscribers, if you close and deactivate your account, I guarantee you he will do something about it.
Absolutely.
Deactivate it.
Let me just say this very quickly before we take a next pause here. So many people are checking in. Forensic accounts said tired of people in chat misrepresenting the legal definition of freedom of speech. It's still a big thing. B Dizzle said, indeed, I spend close to that much yearly to keep my Sirius XM subscription going, talking about the cost. Davey Floater said they kicked Trump off Twitter because of COVID and the election. Our government has surrendered to COVID and Biden has been president for almost 2 years. Twitter's excuse to keep him off has expired. Has it really?
It's a private company. They can do what they want.
I don't know if it's expired because Donald Trump is still ever present in the GOP, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's still, yeah.
Janae said it does mess with those who can't handle, like in terms of the speech, hate speech does mess with those who can't handle, particularly the ones who commit suicide. But It's not about just blocking because you are offended. Hate speech lives on and cultivates into activity. I think that is absolutely right. All right, look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Let's discuss, switch gears here. A lot of Black women particularly are looking to have children outside of the hospital and more into a community space. We'll talk about the pros and cons of that decision. And then later, balancing your side hustle with your 9-to-5. Is it truly possible? Can we all live? Can we work? Can we just win? We'll have that conversation. And then later, we check in with the president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, Dr. Harry Williams, to talk about the HBCU transformation project. So stay with us. A lot to get to in the second 30 of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood-Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A Black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Folks, there is a new report that has come out to show that Black women in particular is the highest demographic of women who are choosing to opt out of having births in the hospital and instead of the hospital and having those births in the community. This is based upon a new report by the Partnership for Women and Families that was released last month. And they said that 30%, they noted that 30% increase in Black mothers are choosing to give birth outside of the hospital. Some are saying because of the pandemic. Now, if you see that community births up 30% for Black women, up 24% for Hispanic and Indigenous women. And we wanted to talk a little bit about what are some of the pros and cons of this big decisions, and is it really about COVID-19? Let's bring back our culture crew members. Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast, and Iman Heath, who is an activist and entrepreneur. Let's start with you on this one, Iman. When we look at this, I thought this was very interesting, which is why I wanted us to have a conversation about this. Is this really about COVID?
I do
or
not.
Is there something deeper that we're not seeing and that Black women are seeing, but hospitals and healthcare workers aren't seeing?
I do not have the exact statistics, but Black women are dying giving childbirth or after childbirth more than other racial groups. So I think that is what's causing the issue to have Black women wanting to push to having their give birth at home. Having a doula or a midwife has become a new trend, a healthy trend. But the reason is due to Black women. Is we complain about pain or things of that nature, it is looked as if we're not really in that type of pain or we're not really hurting. I had a friend of mine who passed away due to blood clots after she gave birth. And she went to the hospital numerous times, I think for like 3 weeks after she gave birth, saying, hey, this feels like something is wrong. And next thing you know, she passed away due to a blood clot that wasn't noticed due to her pain being, I want to say, taken lightly. So I think it's more than COVID that is driving this, because Black women were dying giving birth.
It is interesting, and I'm so sorry to hear about your friend Iman, because I mean, one of the things, Lisa, I'm thinking about are two things: trust issues that Black women, like the growing distrust that Black women have with doctors, and now I'm hearing more and more Black women are going to holistic healers and kind of quote unquote alternative practitioners of medicine, and then safety being one of the big things that Black women feel like they don't feel quite safe in hospitals. Is that, in what I'm hearing, is that the right thing?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Iman. There's been systemic issues in racism in the healthcare system for a while. Like, I had a friend who was a physician's assistant. She was going to school in the 90s. And even in the 90s, they had in the book that Black people had denser bones and thicker skin in the 90s. So this is something that we do need to look at. And Black women are 22% more likely to die, from heart disease. We're 71% more likely to perish from cervical cancer. We're 243% more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth related causes. So I think that doctors don't always listen, again, with the pain threshold. Of course, that came from racism, that Black people don't feel pain the same way that white people do. And so I think when you come to a doctor, I experienced this myself, and I had a Black doctor. So it's not even just, you can't say it's just white doctors, it's healthcare in general. And I think it's something that we do need to look at, because the only reason why the opioid crisis didn't impact Black people quite as much as it impacted white people is because they didn't believe that Black people were in pain to give it to them in the first place. So the one time in history that racism actually saved Black people from dying was the opioid epidemic. But I think that that's why they're looking for something that's holistic and something that's natural. But I think that we do need to make sure that we fix the hospitals, because somebody like me, had I given birth at home, I would have died. So we do need to be able to go to a medical establishment and get the care that we need when we need it.
So how does a woman overcome that distrust to be able to say, you know what, I want to have my baby in a hospital? And I mean, this is very difficult topic to have a conversation about, just because, I've heard the unfortunate, like the horror stories of Black women giving birth in the hospital, dying, or if they're not dying, they have suffered long-term, effects due to everything from epidurals to the medication. And, it's just their bodies have suffered tremendously because they have gone through the quote unquote traditional means. So if a woman has distrust, how does she get over that? Or should she not?
I don't think she should. I think that in medicine, that's one of the problems that we have, is that we and we've seen this with COVID too, with people, you do have to second guess. You do have to question. If something doesn't feel right and something isn't right, you need to speak up. And I think that we are automatically less likely to say something because we like, okay, they are the knowers of everything, especially when it comes to medicine. I'm not going to get a second opinion. Had I not done that, I wouldn't be here. So these are the things that you need to do. You do need to question, and I don't think you should ever 100% take somebody's word. You should do your research, and you should ask someone else if you don't feel comfortable with that. If you know you don't feel well, you need to say something, and if they're not listening to you, you need to talk to someone else. And that's unfortunately what happened to Shanice Wallace there in California with Cedar Sinai Hospital, that they're having the lawsuit now because he saw that his wife was bleeding in her catheter and they didn't do anything about it. So these are the things that you do need to advocate. And that was such an unfortunate situation that happens too often.
Yeah, absolutely. Iman, what's your take?
And then I may have missed the question because, again, connectivity issues. But I think another thing that women have to do is just be comfortable with their OBGYN. I never had a child, haven't been through the childbirth process, but from what I do understand and know, that's where it starts. Your gynecologist. That is where it starts. Trusting her, building that relationship with her. And it doesn't have to be just, have a Black OBGYN, because I've come across those who have ignored what I have asked for, or
you mean Black women have ignored what you've asked for?
Other black OBGYNs here in Maryland have ignored concerns or things that I've had, or for example, let's just say randomly, you have fibroids, but they're small, enough to worry about it. Well, if I'm highly concerned, and considering I haven't had children yet, I want to at least make sure I have everything is working properly to do so. So to undermine my concern, that's a huge red flag, and you would not be delivering my child. So it's the trust. I really think it's a relationship trust thing that you have to build with your gynecologist. I think that's where it really starts.
And also, one of Maya Lynn said, she said this in the chat, as a Black woman, you have to be unrelenting and advocating for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Now, I know that Black women, I've talked to my wife, I've heard my wife and her sisters and my sister-in-laws, they often talk about that. But I think that some women still feel like the doctor knows best, especially if it's coming from a Black doctor. If you are a Black woman, you're going to a Black woman doctor, or even if you're going to a Black man doctor, part of your guard is down because you're like, oh, this is another Black person that understands the struggle. They understand my pain. Therefore, I'm going to trust their judgment of certain things. So
the white coat syndrome, I need us to kill that as minorities, period. Now, I'm not saying, do your own research, Google something, and then diagnose yourself with cancer, because I've gone to the extreme before. But just because they've been to school, they have the education, that's fine. But some doctors, I'm not saying all, they have a big pharma is what signs their paycheck. They get extra money when they push certain prescriptions and they push certain procedures. C-sections. The rate of women getting C-sections is skyrocketing, but it's like, why? What is the cause? What are we not listening to? What could be the problem that is being ignored, or we're just not noticing? But it's and we're also learning healthier ways to give birth. We're learning when we do our own research, it's more to it than just, hey, I'm popping out the baby. The more I read, women are literally portals, okay? From the spiritual realm to the physical realm. That is a big deal and heavy experience. So it's nothing to be taken lightly. Make sure in your environment, have a calm, soothing environment as much as possible. I've seen the videos, though. It can get chaotic. I've seen men pass out in the hospital room. But again, we just have to keep educating ourselves on what makes us comfortable.
Yeah, and I agree with Iman. I think that in being in a hospital, it is very medical. It doesn't feel as intimate. And I think that that's another reason why women are deciding, not even just Black women and women of color, but even Caucasian women are now, getting out of the hospital setting because it is very. You've ever been in a hospital? It's not the best place to be. Like it doesn't.
It's not inviting. It's not
right.
inviting.
It's not inviting. But
it's not like your living room.
Right. No. It's not like your living room. But I think that women do. And I think you're right. Women are less likely to want to be a burden. But you do need to make sure that you are advocating for yourself. If you know that something doesn't feel right, don't just sit in it because your body knows. The doctor can't feel your pain. The doctor doesn't know physically what you're feeling. You're telling them. And then when it comes to checking, make sure you research. Google is just not enough. Go to, healthgrades.com. Go to the medical board in your state and check up their license. You can see if they've been sued. You can see if they have lawsuits. These are things that you need to do. And please get that out of your head that just because somebody is Black, I see this in mental health, it doesn't mean that they know your struggle. It doesn't mean that they grew up like you. You need to do research. The best doctor for you may not be Black. They could be Asian. You need to make sure you go find the best doctor for you in the field and do not pick people specifically on race. I'm not saying that Black people aren't amazing doctors. There's some amazing Black physicians out there. I've had some, but we can't just be picking people based on that. And please advocate for yourself.
So here's the other part. Mike V checked in and said, medical capitalism plays a significant role in the disparities here, which I think is absolutely correct, right? Because that leads us to my next question about, access to resources, especially for women who are considered to be low income, low income households, low income mothers who, they're working 2 jobs to make ends meet. They may not have the time to do all of the research, to do all of the running around to try to get 2 and 3.
But you know what, Faraji? I hate to cut you off. It's not even just the poor mothers or lower income mothers that are dying. It doesn't matter. When they looked at the statistics, it didn't matter how much money they made. They died at the same rate. And when it comes to childbirth.
But what about the access to the resources? Like if, being able to say, okay, if the doctor is saying like, this is the best course of action to deal with your pregnancy because you're suffering from A, B, and C, then the access to get a second opinion about that might not be as high. You may not know,
right?
Just ignorantly, and I'm not saying that in a shady way. I'm just saying you literally don't know what other options you have. Or 2, you might have these other options on the table, but you just don't have the time. Especially if you're a woman that already has children, you got 1 or 2 children and you're expecting a second or third or fourth child. And you're not taking the time out. Taking time out to go to the doctors is taking time out to earn the money that you need to support you.
But if you don't have health, you don't have wealth. You can't do anything if your health is not right. We do need to make a priority of taking ourselves. Like I think sometimes we look at the money side of it when you don't. I think we do need more access. So of course, if you're in a poor community, they're going to have like community centers. They're not going to have as many doctors and the insurance. Our healthcare system in the United States sucks. It's absolutely terrible. It is built for the wealthy. If you don't have any money, it's going to be hard for you to get that care. But at the same time, we can't use, I don't have the time to go to the doctor. I don't have the time. Now, if you don't have the money, that's something different. That's where we need the United States government to step in to make sure that everyone has access to healthcare. But the time, if you're not well, you can't work. We need to make sure that especially in the Black community, because I feel like that's one of our biggest issues. We don't care for our bodies the way that we should. So we do need to make our bodies a priority.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me just share this one. This is according to the CDC that the U.S. recorded that a maternal mortality rate of 23.8 deaths per 100,000 live births in 2020, which is up from 17.4 deaths per 100,000 births in 2018. So we're still seeing a maternal mortality rate that's actually increasing. And I think that there are a number of factors as to why that can be. That could be the woman's body. It could be medication that she may be taking. It could be the environment that she's in. And which leads me to my other question, which is, is this a sign that there is a silent revolution against big pharma and healthcare in this country? If Black women are saying no more hospitals, You know, I'd rather do this at home. I'd rather take my chances being around family. I'd rather, you know what I mean, versus being in a cold, you know, stoic, stale space where I'm, you know, you got all these people around me. I don't know who has my best interests at heart and all of those things. Is this like a sign of a silent revolution? And Iman, what's
I
your
think
take?
it is. I think it is. I think we're you know, I love that word revolution, but I think we're on our way there. I see more women signing up to learn to be a doula. A lot of women are learning to be housewives, not housewives, midwives. A lot of us are learning the process of how to add.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose her?
I think we did.
All right, let's go back to it and make sure. I know my man Keenan
no,
is
she's
going to
still
jump right on
talking.
and take care of that. But
Okay.
what do you think, Lisa? Is this a sign of a silent revolution?
I do. I think more people, I think it's the same thing with like the vegan movement or the plant-based movement where you saw more people need more into their bodies. I think that you will see more women who step away from, you know, going into the hospital setting. So yes, I think in a way we will see a big push towards that. But I also think that we do need to not just big pharma, but you also have to look at the insurance companies, because a lot of this is based on, because if you don't have good insurance, they're only going to treat you up to what they get paid for. So that's also something, although people are coming out of the hospital, there are times that you may need it. So we also don't want to push everyone out, because sometimes you can't determine if your baby is in a bad place without the equipment that they have in hospital. So I think it is something that we will see more women step away from, but we need to fix the healthcare system still.
And it's let me tell you, I'd agree with you. It's such a huge mountain to climb, though, right? Like we're seeing all of these pieces together, and I'm wondering, Lise, like if we had quote unquote universal healthcare,
mm-hmm.
If, for example, if this country were to really not trying to capital, and I know some people might be like, bro, you sound like you're a socialist or something. But I mean, there are places around the globe, and I'm thinking of Haiti, Cuba, that have produced some of the highest quality doctors that this world has ever seen. But we in the United States don't want those doctors to come in, even though they have the ability to save life, even though they have the ability to save the life of the mom and the baby. And I'm bringing that up to say that there has to be, you know, America always gets into her head like, oh, we got this. And you be like, no, you don't. You don't got this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you don't reach out to other people who would love to come in and say, okay, let me bring my expertise to the situation and see if we can turn this whole situation around. If the maternal mortality rate is going up every couple of years, that's a sign to me. That's a real sign. If Black women are choosing to have community births versus that's a sign. Like, and it's like the writing is on the wall, America. The writing is on the wall. Your healthcare system is not caring for nobody's health the way it should be. Now, not to say nobody's going to benefit from it, but the way it should be.
Agreed. I agree. And I mean, but now you're talking about immigration, Farachi. So now
right. You see what I'm saying?
You're bringing it another.
And I get it. And I know, Lisa. I know that was going to come up and be like, oh man, you opening the doors for it. And it's like, but if this country, if women are dying because of poor decision making or bad assessments coming from doctors,
we need to fix the education system. We need to make sure that systemic racism is not a thing in the healthcare system. So those are the things I think before we start bringing in people from the outside, we need to train the people that we have in the inside. Like, let's train them first, and then we can work our way out.
If we train them to see that the Black woman and her health is worthy to be protected and preserved.
Agreed. 1,000%.
That's the only thing. If we have that conversation, that needs to be emphasized, especially if you are a doctor or nurse, you coming from outside of those communities. And I'm not just talking about Black women. I'm talking about, you know, you look at marginalized communities, Black women, Latino women, Native American women, Asian women. like if you are a white doctor, you come in there with great humility and say, look, I don't know it all.
Mm-hmm.
But again, our culture is, and it makes me think about what the scriptures say, how we take our, you know, our doctors and our lawyers, and we see them as gods beside God. You know what I mean? So to speak. Like we take their word and it is. It's like, oh man, the doctor said it, so it must be. You shouldn't be going to war with your doctor about your health.
Agreed.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't.
If I'm going back and forth with you about my health, bruh, you can't be my doctor. We can be partners. Let's be partners, but we can't be enemies about my damn health.
Yes.
And I'm concerned that Black women are getting, and I know y'all are getting the short end of this thing. I absolutely know it. Every time my wife says I gotta go to the, I'm like,
yeah. The first, I can tell you,
I trust her OBGYN though. I trust she's a Black woman. She understands, and she's been right about her. So I trust her.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. You know what I mean? It's almost like a crapshoot. You just can't trust everybody.
Right. Agreed. When you get a good doctor, though, you gotta stick.
You be following at least you follow that doctor like a barber or hairstylist.
Right.
You be like, where you going? What hospital?
Right. You gotta.
My plan don't cover that. All right, hold on. Hold on, doc.
Let me get another job.
My plan on this insurance, and I'm about to jump. About to jump on the insurance. What hospital again? Oh, all right, bet. I'm about to get new insurance.
Right. You gotta keep the good ones.
I mean, they come a dime a dozen. All right, look, I hope and pray that we can really have some even deeper conversations, because I would love to see something happen to change the culture of this. I'm happy that Black women are doing community births, doulas, midwives, the whole nine. So for all of the women listening, if you've gone through that process, if you found it to be beneficial, that's amazing. But I'm like you, Lise. Sometimes you do need that medicine. Yeah. Every woman's body is different, and sometimes you need that special treatment. And the only thing you could do is pray to God that you're making the right decisions. Because when you go into the hospital, you don't know what you're getting. So you better ask the God, the creator, the divine, however you want to call the great force.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guide me in this decision, because I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you do. My daughter probably would have been 35. I would have still been pregnant if I didn't medical, because she was not coming out.
Wow.
But yes, do your research and do what you need to do. And fix the system.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about what's going on with side hustles. Do you have a side hustle even though you have a 9-to-5? And how well are you balancing that life? We'll have that conversation also in the next hour. We check in with Dr. Harry Williams, the president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, to talk about the HBCU Transformation Project that is happening among a network of HBCUs. We'll have that discussion. So all of that and a whole lot more coming up in the next hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of today's show. Great conversation for the first hour. Make sure y'all check out the recap after today's broadcast. But look, I wanted to have a conversation about something that culturally I know all of us are doing. All of us, every single one. Let me not say that. Not everybody is working like this, but most people, some people, okay, Faraji, say some people, they are, if you're like me, you've been working the 9 to 5. And then you've been working your side hustle, whatever your passion is, right? And so we're finding that there are we're finding that it's not easy balancing your work life with your side hustle life. Or is it? We wanted to have this discussion because I am joined by two women who probably have done the side hustle thing for a very long time. And guess what? I am a huge I don't want to say advocate, but I think that if you're not working the way you want to work in the space that you want to work in, make some moves to figure out how to get to the place that you are passionate about. And sometimes that requires some overlapping of time, overlapping of duties. So we wanted to have this conversation about the finding balance between your 9 to 5 and your side hustle. Let's bring back Lise Winning, host of Millennials Anonymous. And I think in a few moments, we'll be also joined by Iman Heath, who is an activist and entrepreneur who has 1,005 different side hustles. So I thought this would be a great conversation for her. But Lise, when we look at the side hustle 9 to 5 balance, work-life balance, this is not an easy thing.
No.
This is not easy. Let me tell you. Lise, you're gonna find this to be funny.
Okay.
My side hustle has always been media. I've done a lot of other work, but media, now I think about it, it's like media has been my girlfriend. That is the one woman, the one true thing in my life, Lise, that I am.
She a ride or die. Media is a ride or die.
Media is my ride or die, Lise. Okay, forget about me. All right, so media is my long-term mistress. I've for a long time, and I'm not joking. Like for years, I've worked so many other roles, but then it's like because I'm doing media work on the side, and people knew. They like I try to keep it, but then after a while, they like. My supervisors will have that conversation like, hey, Faraji, we would like to talk.
Oh, those conversations.
So I happened to turn on the radio in my car. I'm like, I try to play dumb, Lisa, like, oh, yeah, what were you listening to? I was listening to this show, and I thought I heard your voice. It's like, You heard my voice? Try to make it seem like they're in the Twilight Zone. But how does a person keep their side hustle and their 9 to 5 in balance? Or is that like a unicorn? It's just never, it's not a reality. It's not a possibility.
I think it's an alicorn. That's even more unique than a unicorn. Because I think eventually, like the millennials, us, our generation,
right?
We have gone away from this 9 to 5 work there for 30 years. We are the gig economy. We believe in you take this job, you take that job, you take this job. And the new one, Gen Z is even have taken it to the next level. Like they get a job in order to move up, then they'll get another one, and then they'll get another one. So I don't think it's possible to do it long term. Now, I know people who've had long-term side hustles, but usually they either stop doing the side hustle or the side hustle becomes the main thing, because you got to have some time to breathe at some point. You got to have some downtime, which I have 57 jobs right now. So I'm waiting for that time or things that I'm doing. I have my hand in so many different things right now. So I think it's almost impossible to maintain it long term.
No. Because you know what I found, Lise? You know what I found? I have found that your 9 to 5 job as much as they don't want to be, impeding or imposing on your time, they lie.
Mm-hmm.
They want your time, and they want all of your time. I have not worked a 9-to-5 job where, they were like, oh no, I mean, after this time, you're good. You're fine. You're good.
Right.
You're good.
No, you get the, hey, buddy, you want to stay?
So, and then, because, I mean, I've worked mostly in the nonprofit, especially in the nonprofit world.
Oh,
the nonprofit world act as if, in the nonprofit sector, they always act as if they can accommodate all of the various talents that you bring to the table. They always act like that. But then when they realize like they don't have access to all of those talents, then they get a little bit under, they feel a certain type of way. They're like, so you do communications.
Right.
So, how do you, what time do you normally do that?
Right.
And it's like, first thing, and I always, and then I'll be like, first thing is salary. You're paying salary, so it's not like I get any extra benefits from giving you my whole life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think that people, I think that, and I don't know what the, I mean, because I've always been on the other side, but I don't know what the line is where you put down your 9-to-5 or you try to really organize that in such a way because of your side hustles. And I think to add to that, I think that your side hustle should at some point stop being a side hustle and being your main thing.
I agree.
I don't know, Lisa, if we're talking about relationships or jobs. I just can't get it out of my head.
It feels like both, though. It applies to both. Like sometimes you leave work, you feel dirty. It's like it feels the same.
Right, you're cheating on your job,
right? It's
with
like,
another job. Like, I'm so sorry, 9-to-5.
Like,
she treats me better.
Right.
She understands me more.
No more. No, I think that we do need to do something in this because we can't continue to do the side hustles and continue to maintain mentally. We just don't have the capacity. The brain can't operate as much as Jobs asked you. I need someone who can multitask. It's impossible. The brain literally can't do it. We just switch back and forth between tasks really fast. We actually cannot multitask. It's something we can't do. So we can't sit here and keep juggling everything because eventually something is going to fall by the wayside. So I feel like you don't quit your job to do your side hustle if your side hustle is not going to pay you and financially you can't do it.
Yeah.
But work towards making sure that eventually, like you said, that side hustle becomes your main thing, especially if that's where your passion is. We live once. You shouldn't hate. Anybody been to the place where you just sitting in your car like, why, Lord, how did I get here? Like just sitting in your car and you get there, you look at the clock, you got in at 9, it's only 9:10, and you just like, I can't do this no more. Like if you're to that point, you need to start working your way into your side hustle or into what people call your purpose, whatever that may be.
Well, and I mean, your side hustle, and that's true. Your side hustle may not be your purpose. This just might be a quicker way to get the paycheck.
True. I mean, people do Uber, they do, because sometimes you got to make money. Like everything, inflation is crazy. Like food is
talk about that. Yeah.
$500 for an apple now. Like everything has gone way, way up. So no, everything is, it's like I mean, have you gone in Whole Foods?
Yes,
like,
I have gone to Whole Foods. It's actually $499, not $5.
See, that's what I'm saying. And that was before the pandemic.
Right.
So I think that we do need to work towards, if you have a side hustle, because you can't do both. You can't do both for long periods of time.
No, and here's I love what Brother King Lee checked in on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page, and said, look, when I was the owner and operator of a research marketing firm, I told my employees to take on a side hustle because I will not be in business forever providing for you.
Wow. You had an employer that said that?
That's what my man King Lee said.
Wow. Okay.
I would have worked for King Lee, and after he gave me that rousing speech, I would have been like, "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." It could have been, reverse psychology, because then people would be like, "Well, I can work for this guy for 10 to 15 years."
Right. Right. Yes.
But I think in 2022, and I mean, again, unless you're talking about I'm not going to put a salary amount on there, but I think in 2022 there has to be some leniency from jobs about outside work. Now, I don't know if they should codify it in policy, but there should be some understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're not, especially like you're not going to get, this is not 20, 30 years ago. People have side hustles. First, you said inflation. Mm-hmm. Second, let's talk about passion, right? Mm-hmm. People have more than one interest. Third, let's talk about the fact that we're all in a space where we're trying to just work on multiple things. You can't be wealthy in this country without having multiple streams of income. I'm a firm believer. Not one job is not enough anymore.
Yeah, I think that you can get to wealth by owning something. I think more than the multi-streams, you have to own something. Like what they don't tell you that, because all the people who are the richest people in the world, not even just in the US, they all own something. But unfortunately, we all can't sit there, and that's a whole nother thing. So if you can't sit there, yes, we need 17 streams of income, unfortunately, in order to just make it from your 9 to 5. I do think you're right. I think that when it comes to employment, because there are certain jobs where you have a contract, like you can't work for another similar company. You're in media, so I'm pretty sure you've signed those non-competes where they're like, you can't, if I hire you here, you can't work there.
Honestly, no. I only had that issue with one opportunity,
really?
But everybody else, please, you're not paying me enough.
Wow, really?
Look, Matt Lauer, when he was on NBC, was
he can't talk about him. He can't.
Let me just tell you. I'm just saying the man was making $20 to $25 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Main man, if we paying you that much money, you ain't got no other life.
You don't have to worry.
For those of us who are lower on the median totem pole, yeah, you're going to see us on Black Star.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, my boss, you see him everywhere. MSNBC, he on everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He doing all types of stuff. In media, that's just what you do. You know what I mean? Now, in other industries, that's certainly going to change, but it depends on the industry.
Right. Yeah, and I think that we do need more employers that are more open in understanding that people have lives. I think that what we've seen was the Great Resignation, and it started in 2020, where you had a bunch of people who either got laid off and they started a business, or once 2021 hit, they say, you know what? I felt so good not having to worry about, being micromanaged, that they just quit. Like, people realize that I only live one life. So we do need employment in this country to shift. We also need the way that we view success and hard work also to shift, because we kind of are living this false narrative. And this is another reason why we see so many people with side hustles, is because we believe that the busier you are, the more successful you will be and the harder you're going to work, when that's not really how that works. So we're missing some key pieces when it comes to the side hustle. So I don't want people to just think that they need to just side hustle themselves to death.
No,
you can.
Yeah. But see, guess what? And when you do side hustle yourself to death, there is a psychological, emotional, and physical toll that you're going to take. There are some consequences for that, right? Like if you always moving, always shaking, no business is going to do, and I'm speaking of, especially if you're in like sales or that type of industry, like you have to cultivate relationships with your clients. If you are trying to do, you got this set of clients and that side of clients, and you're not cultivating, that's not going to bring in that residual income that you want. That's not going to. So you can't try to side hustle your way out of everything. And then you be like, only sleep 3-4 hours a day. I'm good. I just need a coffee or energy drink. I'm good. And you out there and you looking like a chicken with his head cut off, running after some money that you're not going to be able to get because there's no real consistency or there's no real cultivation of the talent. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the big things. And my man King Lee, he responded. He was like, "Yeah, it was partly reverse psychology." I know how you think, King Lee. I see you, brother. But no, he also said it served as a motivating factor because of my former employees went on to become business owners. So you know what I mean? Like there has to be some leniency there. Taylor said this: employers slight themselves from having loyal and highly talented workers for the long term. What happened to the benefits that acted to keep employees loyal with a sense of safety and security? You know how you get people to be loyal to your company? Not just pay them a livable wage, but you pay them what you see them to have, like their potential. And I'm not talking about hourly work. I'm talking about salary work. You know what I mean? You don't lowball people. You lowball people when they're bringing a certain level of talent. And I've been in this position, so I know exactly. If you lowball me, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lowball you. My performance is going to be bare minimum.
Yeah, treat people right. Don't treat people like a number. If you're an employer, make sure you treat people like a number. But I also want people to know, because I said this, and I don't want people to think that I'm saying that you have to own something, because you don't. Like, it's okay if your method of getting your money and living, everybody doesn't need to own a business. To be frank, everybody don't know how to run a business. So you can work for somebody and still make a good wage. You just need to find something that you're good at, or at least like to do.
Yeah.
And work that way. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm slighting anybody. You do not need to. Everybody needs to own a business, because it's not an easy
terrible.
thing.
That's terrible advice.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, to be a
no. And here's why, at least. It's not good advice, because if we teach everybody that they're going to own a business, and I'm just saying this on a very fundamental level, you teach everybody that you can be the owners, who's going to work for you?
True. It's going to go back to a barter system. You can't grow if you don't have employees.
Who's working for you? Like we should not shame people for wanting to work for other people.
Right.
I hate that culture. I hate it.
Yeah, let's change the culture. Like we have to change it, that you have to own a business in order to be successful. You do not need to own a business in order to be successful. You can definitely work for someone else, and it's no shame or harm in doing that.
There's no shame. No shame. I mean, at least when I tell you I hate it, like when I seen everybody during the pandemic, in the early parts of the pandemic, everybody was like, yo, all you got to do, they going to send out a damn meme on how to open up a business. Like all you got to do, a meme. Do you know how much you got to do to legitimize your business? And I mean, I'm not trying to say it's this super long list, but let's not try to diminish the amount of time, effort, work, resources that you need to have to legitimize your business, to get it up and running. Like, and everybody don't have that skill, right?
Correct. Lord.
Everybody don't have the skill to go and make sure that their business is incorporated, making sure that you pay all the necessary fees, finding an accountant, finding a lawyer. Everybody doesn't have that skill. Everybody doesn't have the time. I mean, let's stop trying to make it seem like, well, if you just want to make some money, all you got to do is own a business. Like that, it don't magically appear like that. Then once you get all the paperwork and all of those background things taken care of, you still got to actually run the business. There's the skill to run the business. And it takes 3 years, 3 to 5. We talked about this before. So I'm just saying, like, even the culture has put entrepreneurship, side hustles, and 9-to-5s in a place where we want to make people feel bad because you want to work for somebody else. All doctors start working in a hospital. Only a few open up their own practices. Same thing with lawyers. You start working in a law firm before you open up your practice. Right. But that's not the pathway. And people live pretty well working for other people, right? Like there is a certain peace of mind.
Right.
When you work for other people, you don't have to think about all of that other stuff, right? And so why be mad or why like we just need to have a bunch of entrepreneurs? Because most of our entrepreneurs are so small in their business dealings that it's like you working backwards, you hustling backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but I just hate that whole idea of like just be an entrepreneur, like quit your job and be an entrepreneur. Like,
no, doesn't really work like that.
No, because the bills don't just stop and be like, oh, Lisa's an entrepreneur. Let's just stop coming to Lisa over a 3-month period and see how things go.
Yeah, we're so concerned with her. Let's just, we're just going to call and Verizon and say, you know what, you're opening a business. Don't worry about it. Like,
right,
no.
Don't worry about it. We'll take care of your bills. Yeah, Clutch and Stick said, tell Dame Dash that. Yeah, Dame Dash, don't stop telling people to say, be a boss, be a boss. You can be a boss in other people's situations.
You can. We don't need everybody to open up a business. I know you've been in places where it's like, who owned it? Like, it's just like, no, this is not working. And one day we'll have the conversation about get paid, know your worth, because I think that social media has taken this and blown this out of proportion because you can price yourself out of business if you don't know what you're doing.
That's a conversation for a different day. Price yourself out of business, you can get into trouble with the law.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the IRS, I was just trying to be an entrepreneur. And the IRS would be like, well, you didn't pay your taxes for 3-4 years.
Right.
And you get money on your business.
Right. Yeah. One day we're going to have that conversation because
we got to have that conversation.
We need to have it. We need to have it.
I mean, we definitely need to have it. And I think that's and I want to, let me see if Keenan, throw that quote up here. Because the reason that we're having this conversation is because there were 2 Black women that co-founded a group, an eye repair, not eye repair, but they do prescriptions for people called Hive. And one of the sisters, Mika Bright, she's the co-founder of this business. And she said, you perform better when you have a strategic view, a strategic approach to your day-to-day as an entrepreneur. She said, and I think we do better when we know this is not the end, right? Sometimes we can feel like this is the end. I have no way out. This is not your end. This is just a means to an end. So you can go, you can be happy, and your whole perspective is totally different because you have something else going on. She's simply talking about when you have a 9-to-5 and a side hustle, that your mindset is different because you know that you have another stream of income. And more importantly, you know in your mind that you can do some other things beyond what the job requires from you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, that gives you a boost at the job. If you feel like you're in a place at your job where they don't see you, they don't recognize your talents, they don't they're not asking you to take on more demanding and challenging projects like you want them to. Like if you're at that place in your job and you got a side hustle, the side hustle keeps that energy going because it's like, okay, I'm already doing something. The 9-to-5, and I think a lot of people are in this place, Lee, the 9-to-5 brings in the consistent money,
mm-hmm.
right? Every couple of weeks, you're going to get that check.
Right.
With little effort, right? It's just like, it's going to happen. But that money can then be used, of course, to fund your side hustle. Okay, right. That's everybody's game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the mindset that comes along with being an entrepreneur. You have to know, and I love how Mika said that this is like your way out. You have to be very clear about how you want to exit the 9-to-5 and how you want to enter making your side hustle your full-time job. You got to be clear and intentional about that. That can't just be a feeling. It can't just work off a feeling alone. you have to be intentional.
Agreed. Speaking of exit strategies, make sure you have one for your business, which a lot of people don't. So make sure you always know the end game. What's the next step? Where are you going? And what is your end game?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know what my end game is. I've been with my media girlfriend for years now.
Are you gonna get married? You gonna get married one day?
We are married. We've been in this 20 years. She ain't seeing nobody. Well, she's seeing a couple other people.
Right.
So I mean, that's just the arrangement.
Dawn Lemon, and this is
she's seeing a lot of other people, but it's cool though, because when I need her, she's there.
Okay.
All right, folks, we got to take another break. When we come back, let's check in with Dr. Harry Williams of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Let's talk to him about the HBCU Transformation Project and how this is redefining how HBCUs connect and serve their students. So we'll have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches! Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Folks, it's now time for us to check in to give you some of the latest developments and the latest project and ideas that are happening within the HBCU community. As we all have been talking about, there are a number of challenges facing HBCUs across the country. And so various organizations are deciding to come together to use their resources and to pool ideas in a way to redefine the educational experience. And so one of the big projects that's being worked on is the HBCU Transformation Project. And we are going to be joined now by Dr. Harry Williams, who serves as the president and the CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Let's bring him back in. Let's bring him into the conversation. Doc, it's always a good thing to talk to you. I enjoyed our conversation the last time, so welcome back to the culture.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me back. You know, when I was there last time, I said, hope I get invited back. So evidently I did something right. So thank you for inviting me back.
Oh, absolutely. You did a lot of things right, Doc. You broke it down and make it very plain for us about where we are with things. HBCUs are in a very, very interesting space, I think, and you know this. I mean, this is the work that you do each and every day,
Yeah.
especially the work of providing opportunities with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. But we're in a very interesting space because just as much as we talk about education, there's the political factor, and then of course, there's the cultural factor of how we relate to HBCU. So give us some latest word about the efforts of what the Thurgood Marshall College Fund is doing to get people more engaged and involved. And what is this great transformation project all about?
Yeah, first of all, again, thank you for having me on your show. And you hit it when you say that HBCUs is in a very unique space. We are in the spotlight. And what I mean by that, we're in a positive spotlight where people are looking at HBCUs in a different light. HBCUs have been around for more than 150 years and transforming lives and transforming African-American lives for 150 years. Without HBCUs, there wouldn't be a Black middle class as we know it today, because we didn't have the right to attend white institutions. So we had to create our own. We created our own medical schools, our own law schools, our own pharmacy schools, our own agriculture schools, because we had to do that. And by doing that, we create the Black middle class as we know it. And so the Transformation Initiative is a $60 million initiative that we have partnering with UNCF, United Negro College Fund, Dr. Michael Lomax, who is my partner in this, along with educational partners, Educational Advance. Jim Runzie is the CEO of that organization, but UNCF and TMCF, we are working together on this initiative to continue the support HBCUs and to continue the legacy of HBCUs in our community. And this project, again, we're putting a bright spotlight on our institutions, clearly highlighting the impact in transforming the lives of African Americans. And we want to do that at an even bigger level to get more African Americans the opportunity to attend college and to attend a HBCU.
So yeah, and I think it's necessary because we know that, you know, the sustainability of HBCUs depend on community support. It depends on political support. It depends on cultural support, right? Like you have all of these different like stakeholders that we probably don't see with some of your other colleges, like your predominantly white institutions. You know, it's very like black and white. Like if you give money, you know, this institution is around. But with HBCUs, that's not the only factor.
Right.
Like with HBCUs, there is a buy-in, a cultural buy-in, an emotional buy-in, a social buy-in that has to be established before you can even ask for the money.
Yep, absolutely. Let me give you a clear example about the culture support of an HBCU. My son just graduated from Howard University this weekend.
Awesome.
And when he went for his campus visit, he walked on the campus and he said, "Dad, I don't need to go anywhere else because this institution was made for me and I feel it." And the young man who was giving him a tour on the campus said, "You can come to Howard University and you can be your authentic self. You don't have to be anybody else. You can be yourself. And when you're on that campus, you are in a safe place and you will find your voice." And I didn't understand that initially. You know, musicians are always looking to try and find their voice. And he said, "You will find your voice on this campus," meaning that you will find what you're going to do and you will excel in it. And you can't get that in any other institution but an HBCU in terms of that, because when you're walking on that campus and you see the names of Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, you look at the names on the buildings, and all the names on those buildings are named after people who look like you. And that's a different subliminal message that's being sent to these young people that attend historically Black colleges and universities with the recognition that these institutions were designed for them, and they can come there and they can be themselves. And that's something that is very, very important for all HBCUs.
In a moment, I want to bring back our culture crew member, Lise Winnie, Doc. But talk to us a little about there are 6 elements of this plan of this HBCU transformation project, and it's been launched with $60 million, as you can see here from Philanthropy News Digest. But what are the six elements of this plan?
So we're collaborating with our partners, and we want to make sure we support the institutional improvements and innovation, meaning that our campuses have infrastructure challenges that they need to improve on. So part of this project, bringing together best in class on our campuses to support them in those initiatives. We want to build capacity on these campuses, meaning that we want to bring additional team members there to work on the campus to help in a way that they haven't been able to get in terms of opportunities. What we do know on HBCU campuses, everybody's involved in helping to develop that student when they're walking around. And we want more people with high credentials on those campuses interacting with these young people in a way that's going to continue to lift them up. We want to attract private capital to these institutions. Our goal is to support these institutions in building their endowments. One thing that we learned from the pandemic that just happened when our institutions had to retreat back to online environment, we just don't have the luxury to go into our endowment to stay alive. We don't have those big $1 billion endowments that will allow an institution to stay afloat when they have some really difficult challenges as it relates to, potentially laying people off during the pandemic, potentially not creating the environment for people to return back in a safe way. So by having those identifying people to support and to create those endowments is another major project that's associated with this. And we want to continue to strengthen the community involvement. We want our HBCUs that are in our communities. Right now, they serve as a large footprint, and they are the economic engine for those communities. And we want that to be even more so in terms of the local partners there and those partnerships that are critical. We want to continue to gain support from the federal government. We have seen an unprecedented amount of money coming to our HBCUs, over $30 billion in the last 2.5 years, because of this very unfortunate incident that happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor that did something to this country. And all of a sudden people started talking about, we want to do something to help Black people. And when they were looking for a solution, they looked at HBCUs, because what we have done, HBCUs are those institutions that provide positive upward mobility and social mobility and moving people up in their economic class. So we want to continue to build and help to create a better life, a well-being life. So part of this initiative is make sure we have those processes in place, and we have a team here that's going to continue to advocate in Washington to keep it front and center. We have an administration right now that they have made it a priority, that they want to look at how they can reduce the amount of debt that HBCUs are right now involved with. So we also want to provide infrastructure funding that's going to continue to build new facilities on the campus. So this initiative will play a critical role in that, and looking at continue to tell the story of the value and importance of these institutions. So the components that I just outlined, that's the bulk of this initiative that's going to continue to elevate HBCUs and put them in the spotlight in a positive way that will allow more of our students to benefit from our institutions. I can't hear you.
Oh, this is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I want to bring back our culture crew member, Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. Lise, listening to Dr. Williams, it just goes to show me that we have to be very vigilant in our support for HBCUs. What's your take on and along with your question for Dr. Williams?
I mean, I agree. I guess my question would be: is this going to be for the smaller private HBCUs as well as the larger one? Because I know that Howard University is technically private, but it's a federally chartered school. Does this go for like the smaller ones like Dillard and Bethune? Like, would they also be included in this?
Absolutely. This initiative, our initial investment is $60 million, and the total investment is about $180 million. And the goal would be to touch every single one of our HBCUs, all 101. And that includes all of them. And so that's the goal of this project. And we have a pilot that we have started with, a cohort of about 14 HBCUs that are public, and then another 30 some that are private. And most of the private will fall into the smaller classes like you just referenced there. But we want to make sure that we touch every single HBCU in this initiative. So we're not finished when it comes to raising funds to support this initiative, because the reality, $180 million to impact 101 HBCUs, that's not a lot of money. But we want to start here. We've been fortunate to start here with this. That's going to have an impact to support those institutions, and then we can build off that. So that's why I'm honored to be on your program today, so we can continue to spread this news about this initiative, because we want others, and we're confident that others will join us in supporting, because we know that HBCUs have an amazing return on its value in terms of the impact from an economic standpoint and the impact from a talent perspective. We have some of the brightest students in the world, and companies are looking for talent. And we know that HBCUs do a great job of producing quality graduates for companies that are looking for top employees.
Dr. Williams, one of our watchers, Taylor's asking a question. Do you have dedicated invested alumni? Where do they fit in this whole these 6 work streams you laid out?
We need alumni to that's been one of the challenges for a lot of our HBCUs is improving their alumni giving, the importance of alumni giving back, and recognizing that we're now in a position where we can give back. And this initiative of building the infrastructure, one of the infrastructure centers around the endowment. And the endowment is a place where alumni can give into that aspect of this initiative, because that plays a critical role into the sustainability of our HBCUs. And we need the alumni support 100%.
And I think that's one of the things. So that's why I'm bringing up the point, Lise and Dr. Williams, about that cultural buy-in. Have you? And I'm wondering, Doc, because I'm seeing, we saw what happened with Harvard and their admittance of being, gaining or benefiting from slavery. But I'm wondering, does that really hit the pockets of some of these, predominantly white institutions, whereas HBCUs continue to struggle financially, continue to kind of ask for, demand money, ask for more money? I'm wondering, in terms of that great disparity of finances and funding, that the gap is being closed, even though PWIs have stumbled on some major issues.
So the gap is not being closed. And to be very, very clear and transparent, there's a $12.8 billion gap as relates
between HBCUs and PWIs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In terms of the funding, we are there's a significant deficit. There was a study that was done just to look at the Black land grant HBCUs. We have 19 land grant HBCUs: Florida A&M, North Carolina A&T, South Carolina State, Alcorn. Those are land grant schools that were created in 1890. And when those schools were created, the federal government made a commitment and said that they will fund those institutions for $1 for $1 match. And they have never done that. So we went back and did a calculation to determine how much money they would owe our HBCUs when they didn't fund. Now, they funded the predominantly white land grants like University of Maryland, Ohio State, Florida, University of Florida. Those institutions receive the dollar for dollar match. HBCUs have never received that match. So we went back and there's a gap of $12.8 billion that states owe HBCUs. And so you probably read where Tennessee State, there's a Representative Harold Love introduced legislation to start that process of getting money back to Tennessee State, because Tennessee State is a land grant. And in his bill, they're saying that Tennessee State owe over $500 million to Tennessee State, that the state of Tennessee. And so, and the governor there agreed to pay it. And so that was historic to see that happening. And so we're in the process now at Thurgood Marshall of working with the states to remind them that this is money that's owed to these institutions that they never got.
Wow. I can't get past that, Lise. $12.8 billion.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of money. And I think that shows where the priorities have always been in the states as far as education. And I think that with this project, I'm hoping that it changes the landscape of how people view HBCUs, because it seems like they're not always seen on the same playing field as the predominantly white institutions, which we need that to happen.
Yeah, let me give you another interesting stat. So if you look at private grants, and you mentioned earlier about the white institutions in terms of what they are getting, for example, I think Bloomberg gave Johns Hopkins $1.2 billion. Just gave it to him, just went ahead and gave one person. So private grants at white institutions increased 78% between the year 2010 to 2018. HBCUs grew only 19% during that time period. So 78% giving to white schools for that time period, and 19%. This led to a growing financial gap of about $300 million between HBCUs and other institutions in terms of giving. So what we did experience just here recently, and that's what people, just because you're hearing all of the funding that's coming, to our institutions. Before COVID, before George Floyd, the largest single person gift to Howard University was about $10 million. And after George Floyd, Howard was a recipient of 40 million or so. They got over, hundreds of millions of dollars total in the last couple of years through a wide variety, because of recognizing the significance of Howard. And Bloomberg gave $100 million to the 4 HBCU medical schools. He did that, and Howard was beneficial a part of that. Mackenzie Scott, when she gave out over $500 million, Howard was one of those institutions, got 45 million. A&T got 40 million. Prairie View received 50 million. A lot of our schools had record giving, but that's just one person.
Right.
One person did that, and more than 25 or 26 HBCUs benefited from it. And every last one of them, those institutions that benefited, it was a record for a single person giving. And so I'm just using that as kind of putting it in perspective. When people say, I hear HBCUs getting a lot of money, well, they're not. It's just catch up. And it's not even catch up. It's just, and she changed the game in terms of the way she was giving those dollars out to support historically Black colleges. The one thing that was so unique about that particular giving was that when she gave Florida A&T $40 million, $45 million, she said, you can have these dollars unrestricted. And this is a key word, unrestricted, meaning that he could use it based on what the president of the institution decide what they need to use it on. And then she said, I want a report from you, 1 page for 3 years. And that's it.
Oh, wow.
Other people, when they give to us, They want to tell us how to spend it. They want to tell us what to do with it. So that's
and that's the thing, Doc. That's the thing. Like when I was reading about Miss Mackenzie Scott and how she was, not only was she giving all of this money, but pretty much, I mean, it was damn near no strings attached. It was hey,
yeah.
I mean, you need a page to report where $50,000. You need a whole you need a workbook. But but I think that this is probably, I don't know whether this is a gift and a curse. It's a gift that she gave, but I think it also could be a curse because it still put us in a position that we're waiting on the benevolence of one person to save an institution versus creating or having an infrastructure where the community is constantly giving. The community, whether it's alumni or communities where these schools are situated in, or whoever, like there's a constant stream of income. And that's why I say it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's what this project is all about, is creating that sustainability, that reoccurring, and keeping out front the importance of these institutions in our community and constantly reinvesting in these institutions. So what Mackenzie Scott did, she helped put the spotlight on HBCUs in a way that we haven't had it. And then the federal government on the other end, because of the pandemic, started giving. And this current administration has been very unapologetic about giving to historically Black colleges and universities, because we have a president who had a very strong relationship with HBCU in Delaware. And then we have a vice president who graduated from one. And that makes a difference when you're in there talking about it. And then we have, policymakers now that are very comfortable in talking about the value of HBCUs and very comfortable in talking about it in a way where they put it in the budget. And that's a different way of doing it as it relates to our institutions. So this project, this transformation project, again, the focus to keep the spotlight on these institutions, and by working with our partners at UNCF, Dr. Michael Lomax and I, is by being out front and by coming in together and working together to lift all of our HBCUs up, not just those ones that you hear about all the time, the kind of I call them the brand ones or whatever, in terms of name recognition, but those institutions that you don't necessarily hear about, but they're important to their community, and they're important to the people who live in those communities. And we want that to be the story.
Absolutely. Dr. Williams, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, brother. How can people find more information about the HBCU Transformation Project?
I tell you, go to our website, tmcf.org, to look at some of our initiatives. There you go, right there, Doc. There you go. You're on it.
My team is always on it, Doc.
And we can get that, but our team can also get you some information on that too.
Absolutely. Dr. Williams, it's always a pleasure, brother. You always have a space here on this show to continue to keep us updated about everything that's going on with these HBCUs. So, encouraging many folks to check it out, folks, as we've been talking to Dr. Harry Williams about the HBCU Transformation Project. If you want to get involved, and I hope you do, if you want to get involved, please check out the Thurgood Marshall College Fund website to get all the necessary information. There it is again, folks, taking a look at this and see all of the resources and the opportunities they are affording to you, that they can afford to a young person in your life, whether it's a college student, that, your son, your daughter, niece and nephew, grandson, granddaughter. There are a lot of resources that they have available, and they need your support and they need our support. So, I'm happy that this project is coming along. One thing that we didn't say as we wrap up this discussion, Doc, is that is there a timeline on this transformation project?
This project, we have 4 years to have significant impact. And at the end of 4 years, we want to see a significant number of new students enrolling at HBCU. So that's the goal here at the end of this project, is to see an increase. We're at about 300,000 now. We want to be close to 400,000 HBCU students. And we feel very confident that we can do that because we know the value. What we're seeing now, HBCUs are seeing a increase in applications, an all-time high of applications where people want to apply. But part of that process is making sure we have the infrastructure in place on campus so the students are not complaining about standing in line. Students are not complaining about getting their financial aid. This project
situations and all that, the buildings. I know we've been hearing the sad stories and the horror stories of that situation.
Right. So that's why this project is in existence, because we recognize that, just like anything, we're all about quality, right? When you see quality, you know it, and you want to be a part of that. And that's what we are going to continue to project. So I love being on your show. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for lifting up our community every day. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Dr. Harry Williams, President and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Doc, always a pleasure to have you. We'll be talking soon. Thank you, brother.
Okay. Thank you. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Man, oh man. All right, Lise, this is what we all about. We got to make sure we continue to put in the word in the space for HBCUs. But I mean, at this rate, if it falls down on us creating community, I can't stop thinking about the disparity of that $12.8 billion. I'm like, at this rate, we're never going to bridge gap.
Right. I mean, that's absolutely correct. I'm curious to see if anybody's done a study or a survey on the reasons why more white people give back to their colleges than Black people give back. I wonder if it has something to do with the student loan debt crisis, because Black people, especially Black women, who are the biggest group in college, have more debt.
Yep.
So that could be it. So that's an interesting concept. But yeah, we definitely need to do better.
Very, very interesting. You're absolutely right. Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. Lise, thank you so much. You can definitely check her out. You can see that page right up there, folks. Make sure y'all check her out. She always got some great conversations happening on her podcast. So we appreciate her time with us today and every Tuesday. Lise, thank you so much for being so good for the culture, sis.
And thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. But of course, we want to make sure that we acknowledge you by saying thank you. Oh man, the comments, the conversations that are happening both on YouTube and Facebook have been phenomenal. Let's continue to keep those conversations going, and let's continue to show your support. We need your support. Just like we said for HBCUs, we need your support here at Black Star Network. Make sure you check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. You can download the app for free. If you can't give financially, you can certainly share. You can certainly encourage people to download the app. The more people that we have that are in tune and that are downloaded our apps, the more we are able to leverage your support to gain other resources to create new opportunities for Black Star Network and for unapologetic, unfiltered Black-owned media. So your support is everything to Black Star Network. So make sure you check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you. I thank my special guest, Dr. Harry Williams. I thank my talented team of producers, Joel and Shannon, and my guy Keenan for making me look and sound good. And of course, my culture crew, Iman Heath and Lise Winnie. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is my big brother Roland Martin with Roland Martin Unfiltered. And as always, folks, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.